Alrighty, and I see folks already trickling in. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a few minutes. For those of you joining us, your audio and visual is going to remain off throughout the session this evening, in order so we can focus on Ed specifically. I'm going to join you back in just a few seconds. We're going to go live on Facebook as well, but please hang with us for just a few seconds. All right, Ed. I went ahead and that should be up on Facebook Live here in just a few seconds. I see some more folks joining us. As you join us this evening, it'll be just a few minutes as we get everything set up and ready for you. We're so thankful to have you all joining us this evening for Songs and Symbols of the Southwest with Ed Kabotie. We're so thankful for him being here this evening. You can join us on Facebook Live. Like I said, that link is up now and streaming there. I know Ed has a huge following on Facebook, so we're really excited for those folks to tune in as well. We'll give it just a few more minutes as folks trickle in. For those of you just joining us, your audio and visual is going to remain off this evening, so that's not a technical issue on your side. As long as you can see the presentation and hear us speaking, you are in the right place tonight. Speaking, you were in the right. Ed, were you able to find us over on Facebook?
Yep, I found you.
Right on. Thank you so excellent. Much. So glad we're live there as well. Very exciting. It's been a wild year trying to figure out all this technology. I don't know about you, but it's been a crazy week for me.
Sure has, yeah.
Well, what a fun way to get to connect with folks. Definitely. I know for us, we are connecting with folks through the Bluff Arts Festival all across the nation, all across the world. We had some folks tune in from France. I saw some folks from the East Coast. So really cool way to get to talk to people. But I know it's a little bit different, but we're just so excited to have you here this evening. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very grateful.
Oh, this is just great. I'm sure we'll have a few more folks tuning in, and hopefully folks are out there on Facebook Live as well. I'll go ahead and get started on the Bluff Arts Festival side of things. This is Songs and Symbols of the Southwest with Ed Kabotie. This weekend, though, we have our own Bluff Arts Festival. Usually we are not in the virtual format, but as we alluded to, it's been a weird year. Next slide. Bluff Arts Festival this year is brought to you by Rocky Mountain Power, Community Rebuilds, Adventure Wealth, and Utah's Canyon Country. We also have a host of other businesses, restaurants, hotels in Bluff and the surrounding area who support us every year, and we really thank them for their contributions. Next slide. So, what would an artist market be without a virtual artist market? You can join us at www.bluffartsfestival.org to view this artwork from the folks here on the screen. In addition to our other artists, we have about 30 in total. We have put together a wide array of, all different art mediums, all different ages of folks. So if you join us on our website, you'll be able to access those. It'll take you to their own personal websites or Instagrams or Facebooks, and you will be able to access their art. Next slide. We also have a few more upcoming events. It has been a wild weekend. We've had stuff Thursday, Friday. We've had tons of events today, and then we have a few more tomorrow. Immediately following this presentation with Ed at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we have night 2 of our film festival. For those of you who joined us last night, we actually have a completely different set of content this evening. We'll be joined by additional filmmakers, and we'll be able to do some more Q&A. So we really urge you to join us immediately after this presentation. You can go in and find your own or get your own Zoom login so you can participate, use the Q&A, use the chat feature, or you can join us on Facebook Live. We'll be streaming Facebook Live on our Bluff Arts Festival Facebook page as well. And then tomorrow morning, we have a few other events including our closing ceremony at noon. So definitely tune in for that as well. Alrighty, I have just a couple more housekeeping items before I turn the floor over. As I said, your audio and visual is going to remain off. We won't be able to see you, but we really want to engage with you. So please, 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 please use your Q&A chat box to ask Ed a question. We will be getting to those at the end of the session as time allows. So if you have a question, just pop that in there and we'll get to you. Also, feel free to use the chat feature to chat with your neighbors, chat with other participants. We'll be monitoring that as well and possibly sharing some links. So definitely keep an eye on that. I think without further ado, Ed, we're so thankful to have you this evening. You've put so much work into bringing this presentation with us to us this evening. Very, very, very much appreciate it. Ed Kabotie, everyone, with Songs and Symbols of the Southwest.
Thank you so much, Erin. Herang ho nabi kemaing, nabi toaing, ari nabi matuing, nabi kemaing. Umbiagindi, okoaping omumu kwari ari ke atoa. Kapo winge ari komope winge oho songe wedi umbiagindi. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to this presentation. My name is Ed Kabotie, and I'm from the Hopi village of Sumopabe and the Tewa village of Kapo Owinge, aka Santa Clara Pueblo in New Mexico. So I'm both of Hopi descent. My tribal enrollment is actually in Hopi, but I'm also in the concept of following a matrilineal line. I'm Tewa, and my mother is of the Tewa people of northern New Mexico. Anyway, my Hopi name is, or one of my Hopi names rather, is Flute Song. So I would like to pay honor to my aunties and my grandmothers of the Snow Clan and those that gave me that name by sharing with you a flute song. Thank you so much. Well, this presentation is called Songs and Symbols of the Southwest. And so there are a lot of symbols that I'd like to share with you tonight, but I'd also like to share with you a very personal journey. And I really consider my journey as an artist to really have begun about 10 years ago. And I'll be sharing that story tonight with my artwork. It's a very personal journey. It is a journey that looks back into my ancient past and also looks forward into the future of our people. It's a story that is very much rooted in the lands that we know as the Colorado Plateau, the four corner states, but these sacred lands that hold the largest number of national parks per square mile than anywhere else on the planet, and yet is one of the most exploited lands for uranium, oil, and coal. To me, the area of the Colorado Plateau, the gigantic mesa that extends from northern Arizona, southern Utah, western Colorado, northwest New Mexico, that sacred landscape to me is my home. You know, it's the home of my mothers, the home of my fathers, the home of my grandfathers, my great grandfathers, and on to time immemorial. So in honor of this landscape, in honor of our ancestors, and in honor of our young ones looking forward to the future, I'd also like to share a tune called Hopi Land. So Jesse's helping us out with audio visual tonight, so very grateful for that. So Jesse, go ahead and run some Hopi Land.
Hopi land, if I forget you, fire not gonna come from me tongue. Hopi land, if I forget you, let my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. In the ancient day, during a migration way, following the sign that Jah provide with no delay, we've been traveling from a place to place, seeking understanding by what the spirits say. 10,000 years in the land of the free, and them want me to give up my right to property. Don't you see? It never belonged to you and me. We were given permission if we live in harmony. Hopi land, if I forget you, fire not gonna come from me tongue. Hopi land, if I forget you, let my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. The Castellum come in a 1540. Years gone by, about 60, when we were burned in the oven in the 17th century. And them tried to conquer, but them can't conquer me. I will not lie down, I will not fall asleep. I remember how they held our fathers in captivity. Took the children, erased their memory, changed their name and their identity. Remember who you are and your people's history, how we came into this land to live in humility. No more exploitation for their filthy money. We all know that's not the way to be. Hopi land, if I forget you, fire not gonna come from me tongue. Hopi land, if I forget you, let my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. Caught up in these ways and the world's gone crazy. Don't you know it's just a phase? Case of the Simon says, if I neglect the truth, then my word won't penetrate. Babylon burning through the place, can't see through the haze. Chop down all of their dirty ways. That's the price that you pay for selling lies to the youth. No way, not okay. Oh, no way, not okay now. Ain't no one gonna break my stride. Ain't no one gonna hold me down. Oh no, I got to keep on moving, stay alive. Stay alive. We gonna stay alive. sangave si palave songo pave ki kotsmove ojaive bakave hotvela munkape down in the village, yeah, down in the village, yeah. Land if I forget you. Fire not gonna come from its tongue. Land if I forget you. Let my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. Land if I forget you. Fire not gonna come from its tongue. Land if I forget you.
All right, thank you so much for tuning in to this presentation. And again, you're tuned in to a presentation that entitled Songs and Symbols of the Southwest. I identified myself in my introduction to you as coming from the Badger clan of the Tewa people. I also mentioned that I come from the village of Wild Roses and also of the Reed Springs. And my father is from the Snow clan, and my mother, of course, is from the Badger clan. And these are very significant in what I would call very significant symbols when we're talking about the people and lands of the Colorado Plateau. So I hope that in this presentation tonight, that maybe you will see a maybe broader perspective, I hope, of the indigenous people of the plateau, and in particular, the Puebloan people of the plateau. I hope that maybe you'll see a little bit about the issues that we're facing in this world as well. Let's go ahead and run some slides, Jesse, and yeah. So again, we're thinking about symbols, and as I mentioned, as we look into symbols, we're looking into the ancient past, and we're also looking into the future. As people of the plateau, indigenous people of the plateau, there's footsteps that we recognize in this landscape. Next slide, please. We recognize the footprints of our mothers. We recognize the footprints of our fathers and their markings that they've left here on this landscape. Many of the places, we maybe know them by different names, but by the names that they were known by 1,000 years ago. And maybe these places are ancestral to our clanship. Maybe they're not, you know, but we recognize that these are the lands of our people. Next slide, please. So this is a self-portrait that I did a while back, and you can see that it's filled with symbolism. And these are symbols that to me, I interact with in my personal identity. There's the symbol of the two coming together, of the friendship symbol. There's a reverse spiral, which is also a bass clef in music, which also I identify with. There's a claw there that's meant to represent the Badger people. And there's two markings up and down like the number of 11, which I'm identifying my people as a warrior people of the Puebloan nations, the Tewa nation. And then in the dark background, you can see the moon, the clouds, stars, the sun, because all of these elements are alive to us. And as somebody who grew up on the plateau, the teachings that were emphasized to us as young people growing up is to live in harmony with the cycles of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the rains. Let's continue, please. All right. So I love this. And, you know, this is a different symbology, but it's symbology that I identify with. And I guess what I'm speaking to is the colors of the background. Many of those of the greater culture might recognize these colors as reggae colors. Among Puebloan people, we definitely recognize these colors, you know. The reggae music that comes from Jamaica, and this is the colors of the Ethiopian flag in the background that Rasta relates to and identifies with, but we immediately recognize this because reggae music gives a voice to many of the struggles that our people themselves face. When I first heard the music of Bob Marley, when I first heard the music of Peter Tosh, like many indigenous people throughout the nation, not only the Puebloan people, you know, we identified his voice because it felt like when he talked about his struggle in the greater culture, it almost felt like he was talking about us. But this particular piece is a marker drawing, and it was made to give honor to that legacy of reggae music in Hopi land, that special relationship that we've had since the 1980s. And then you can see very identifiable trickster individuals or trickster personalities, you know, that people, again, of the Southwest will pick up on immediately. The Coyote, you know, who is a very old trickster, and the Koyala, Kosa, the Koshari, you know, there in the back. He's rocking out the drums, you know, but again, a very common trickster among the Puebloan people that we recognize. And then, of course, Kokopulu, or Kokopele, as he's known to the greater culture, the flute player. Anyway, let's continue on. A very important symbol of the Southwest is the symbol of corn. Corn is our life, you know. When we were allowed to enter into the world that we're presently in, among our people, we're told that we were given this gift of corn, and in particular, to Hopi, the short blue corn, which is grown throughout Pueblo country, but very important in particular to Hopi, because that short blue corn would be our guide on our migrations. When we went too far north, when we went too far south, you know, that corn would be our guide as to how it would react. It's a very hardy crop, very strong in desert climates. But that would be our sustenance, you know. And you can see here that here's a man in modern clothing, but he's holding onto that corn like he's nursing, you know, like he's cradling a child. And what I'm trying to say in this piece, and this piece is called both Corn Fathers / culture, because what this man is doing is he's nurturing his own culture. He's taking the time to nurture his relationship to his own culture. And in return, his culture is making him strong, and it's nurturing him in return. I feel like in this modern age that we live in, you know, there's many new obstacles that we face. The Indian Wars didn't end in 1890. No, they continued on in our conflict with the educational system in boarding schools. We also came into conflict, you know, with mineral extraction and social injustice, you know, and we're still in that conflict. So anyway, And let's continue on. This is Cornfather / culture. And again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is so fun. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And I guess I should say that these pieces, a lot of them so far are marker drawings, and markers are very sensitive to the sun. So this particular piece is called Yellow Snow on the Mountain, and I'll explain it in just a moment. But this piece was done in markers and ink, and so when it's exposed to the sun, it'll lose its color. It's in the permanent collection at the Museum of Northern Arizona. It was displayed at the Denver Art Museum a year or two ago as well. Yeah, very light sensitive. So as I'm producing marker drawings, really, to be honest with you, I'm more thinking about the potential of reproducing them as prints. That's how they'll live. And you can see that I'm a little bit of a glutton for punishment with dots, you know. I spend a lot of time, you know, kind of tapping pieces of paper, a lot of hours doing that, cramping up my fingers doing that type of thing. But I really love the results of stippling both in color and both using it as a shade element with black ink. Anyway, what I'm boiling down to is just that all of these works that I'm sharing with you, somebody had emailed me and asked if I would be selling them. They're all available as prints. So just to pass on that information. So this is Yellow Snow on the Mountain, and this is done as a protest piece against the use of reclaimed sewer water on a sacred mountain next to Flagstaff, Arizona. And this is known to Hopi, or among my people, Navatakyaowe or Navatakweowe, among my family. And this is the snow-capped mountain of the San Francisco Peaks. It's a place where moisture gathers for an unusually long length of time in the calendar year. So that from Hopi, as you look across the plain to the mountain, you can see that it's still covered with snow, you know, even into the summer months. And so a very strong place of spiritual virtue, and as demonstrated by the presence of moisture. And I'm sure that you folks in Bluff really can also relate to that, you know, being similar to our type of landscape, you know, that desert landscape. Of course, ours is without the river, but anyway. The use of this piss water, pardon my language, was opposed by all 13 tribes that are affiliated with this mountain, and yet the city of Flagstaff just went forward to sell the water to the Arizona Snow Bowl so that both of them can make a buck. And so this is showing the reclaimed sewer water being piped in from the city of Flagstaff, and it's being piped into a snowmaking machine, and it's blasting out the snow, and that snow is blasting right onto a clown. Now, this will be understood a little bit better to you in the next slides. But the clown, to us, in our culture, I would say that he is very much a mirror to us. He's demonstrating to us how ridiculous our behavior is, and this is exactly what he's doing here, enjoying skiing there on the piss water. You'll notice that I have a sequence of color in the rainbow, red, yellow, green above ground. But underground, it changes to red, green, yellow. And this is because there's something wrong with this water. The chemical makeup of this water, even the United Nations has issued studies about species being exposed to this type of water. and it messes with the reproductive system, which is why down below you can see that all the frogs are being born female. And you can see that the color sequence of the rainbow is disrupted underground. Going back to the symbolisms of the Southwest, you can see, again, Koyala. You can see the rainbow because water is life. And then below ground, something that our people often depicted in ancient times was the water below the ground and how animals interacted with that water below the ground. And that's what's happening here, except that in this case, they're being exposed to this chemically altered water. And so rising up in anger is Palulokang, the guardian of water, the water serpent. And quote unquote, he's pissed, you know. And so that's what's happening. Another very important image of the Southwest would be Palulokang as well, though. You see him on many, represented on many forms of pottery, both ancient and contemporary, as well as rock art. And you see his presence and depictions all the way from the northern four corner states of Utah and Colorado, all the way down into Mesoamerica, Middle America. And so anyway, again, looking at the symbolisms of this land. Let's continue, please. As I said, maybe you'll have a better understanding of the representation of the clown from this picture. This is called Path to Balance, and it's dedicated to my father. I mentioned in my introduction that I feel like my artistic journey has really been for the last 10 years. And it was about 10 years ago that my father, Michael Kabotie Tahang Navitara, my father, he passed away in the from the H1N1 virus. And when my father passed away, he left behind an unfinished concept. He had sketches of a concept of a drawing. And I really felt like the concept that he was drawing was very much a metaphor of his own life. What my father had done is he had sketched out the path of the ceremonial clown and how it begins with conception and then birth and then the discovery and interaction with spiritual beings and our conscience and our ego towards that conscience, and how that conscience continues to speak to us, but we often don't listen to it, avoid it, put it out of our mind, put it out of our heart until we get the royal beatdown. And then that's when we finally become humbled enough to receive truth. My father used to say that the word Hopi is possibly a compound word. He was a bit of an etymologist, where he would say, you know, the masculine is represented in Hohu as an arrow, and Pihu, the breast of the woman. And you put those together, Hohu, Pihu, and you have Hopi, which really would represent a yin and a yang, meaning balance. Because when people speak of being Hopi back home, really they are speaking of attaining a level of consciousness and harmony in which you're living in harmony with your creator and with your fellow man and with the cycles of the sun and the moon and the rains around you. When you've achieved that, then you've become Hopi. So I think most people out home would not refer to themselves in that way as Hopi in that sense of the word. This is the path to becoming Hopi. This is the path to balance. And I would say this is a tribute to my father, because I feel like this really is my father's life. You know, you can see there in the center, the conception in the womb, and then the emergence from the Kiva womb and crying out at birth at 1 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock, the interaction with the spiritual, the discovery of the spiritual. But down there at about 5 o'clock, you can see the ego demonstrated, interacting with very sacred and spiritual presences in this world as human beings, but we neglect those things. And so at 6 o'clock, we see the messengers coming, the owl, who represents that aspect of deity that's all seeing, all knowing, and the raven, who represents that aspect of deity that can clean us up. Of course, like most people, we don't listen. And so at 7 o'clock, we continue on in our dysfunction until at 9 o'clock, we get the royal beatdown. And then finally at 11 o'clock, it's after we receive that royal beatdown that we become humbled and we become converted. And at 12 o'clock, finally become full circle. We become Hopi. So this is referred to as path to balance. I use Tewa clowns in my imagery because I'm a Tewa, but it's a dedication to my Hopi father. Next slide, please. So this next slide is a tribute to the first war for religious freedom that was documented in the area that we today refer to as the United States of America. Many people don't realize that here on the Colorado Plateau, we are first contact people with Europeans. Our initial contact with Europeans is 1539, Jamestown and Plymouth, 1607, 1621. Well, out here, the first European settlement was in 1598, and that was San Gabriel, New Mexico, just north of Santa Fe. And Spain came in their inquisitional mindset at that time and laid claim to this whole region of New Mexico and Arizona, the southern part of the Colorado Plateau, the place where the contemporary pueblos are now living and dwelling. For 80 plus years, we lived under the inquisitional rule of Spain until in the year 1680, we rose up against our oppressors. And on August 10th of 1680, we initiated a war which lasted maybe about a couple of weeks. And it ended with the full surrender of the Spanish from Santa Fe and the liberation of our people. So news of this revolt was carried by relay runners because it was illegal for a Native American to own a horse under our inquisitional Spanish rule. So the runners carried knotted cords, and these cords represented the time until the appointed day of the revolt. The cords had knots that were untied at the dawning of each day, and these were delivered over a 500-mile distance, by these runners from Taos, New Mexico, all the way south to Albuquerque, all the way to the west to Acoma, more west to Zuni, across the state line, even more west out to the Hopi. And when that final knot was untied, roughly around August 10th of 1680, then all of the people of the Puebloan nations throughout northern New Mexico, throughout northern Arizona, went to war and again became victorious over our oppressors. In the corner of the runner or of the painting, and this one is actually a watercolor painting finished with ink, but you can see in the corner that there's the village, and there the village, it has horizontal lines moving away from it, which is representing that the rains are leaving. That because we've been subject to this oppression, because our lives are no longer in balance, because our heart has essentially been ripped from us, our spiritual heart. So the rains also are leaving us. We no longer have that close connection. And so below the village, you can see the spiral. And this is representing that, okay, so now we're going to seek for our life. We're going to seek for our liberation. Like, I believe it was Patrick Henry that said, give me liberty or give me death. This was the emphasis of our people. And as we sought our eternal life, the rains returned to us. And now you can see the rains coming down there in the picture. Okay, thank you. Next slide. I mentioned earlier in this presentation about the desecration of the mountain here in Flagstaff by the ski resort. So back in 2014, the ski resort actually opened for the first time with 100% reclaimed water snow. So when they did that, that was Thanksgiving Day weekend. And on the Sunday of that weekend, there was an earthquake on the mountain. And so many people of conscious thought reason that this is the mountain speaking back to us, reacting to its desecration. The year before that rumble on the mountain, the snowball had used, the reclaimed water. And you can see that in this picture, there's the rain cloud, and it's just snowing on that mountain, representing that that's actually exactly what happened that particular year, the year before this earthquake. Just a very wet winter, essentially washing out the snow that was made by the artificial snow. When they actually opened the season, then there was the earthquake. So here you can see the warrior twins with their flutes, depicted as cocopeles, cocopele, and they're playing their flutes, which is creating the movement of the avanyu, the serpent. And then down below him, you can see the lightnings extending from the water base there, and that's all of that movement is generating this earthquake. And this is redemptive, meaning that this is a cry out for justice. And this is, in some sense, in my mind, in this picture, it's the liberation of the mountain for itself. And you can see now down below, in comparison or in contrast with the other piece, yellow snow on the mountain, in this one, all of the frogs are the male frogs, and the color sequence of the rainbow, red, yellow, green, is the same all throughout the piece. representing that now the cleansing rains have come. Now these male frogs whose existence is threatened, because that's one of the issues with the endocrine disruptors, that there's a decrease in the, when animals are exposed to this water, there's a decrease in the population of males and an increase in the population of females. So in this picture, which is redemptive, you know, the threatened males are now joining the chorus and singing in this quote unquote rumble on the mountain. Okay, let's continue. This one is a marker drawing, by the way, rumble on the mountain, that is. Okay, another very important guy to me is the coyote. Oh! And some of you may be familiar with my band, the Yotes, and actually some of you out here in, or out in Bluff, you know, we have a kind of a special, the Yotes have had a special relationship with the community of Bluff, and we've had our Rumble on the Mountain show there last year. Actually, I'm sorry, Rumble on the Mesa, you know, crying out for the Bears Ears for, again, another social injustice issue. My band, we call ourselves the Yotes, which is short for coyotes, because we're howling for the people and lands of the Colorado Plateau. And, you know, somebody had challenged me about giving a shot to doing like Day of the Dead Yote. And I thought that was very appropriate, you know, very appropriate, because in early stories of creation, you know, I can think of a particular story where coyote is very closely associated with death. And, you know, so I kind of played with him. I started the image in white. So the white image on your left is the original drawing. Well, when I took it to the t-shirt people, you know, we kind of accidentally reversed the colors and threw it to see what it would look like on black. And I was like, holy moly, that looks great. So we kind of keep both designs, and I put the two designs together here. So I want to say something, because we're entering into this time known as Dia de los Muertos, you know, the Day of the Dead. We're talking about symbols of the Southwest, and this is another very important symbol of the Southwest. You know, there are people that are referred to throughout these two continents as Hispanic, you know. And Hispanic really, to me, means that you live in a culture that's dominated by the Spanish language. Just like here in America, you know, we speak English. But though we're Americans, we're first Americans. We're Native Americans, and that's a very important distinction. And often I feel like that gets lost somehow when we're talking about the indigenous people to the south of the United States of America. And we've created laws and policies, you know, to put penalties on these people and to restrict the freedoms of these people who are actually first Americans, you know. These are Native American people. When you talk about this concept of the Day of the Dead, this is something that is observed not only, just like the plumed serpent, not only do you find his presence in Mexico, but all the way up through the Colorado Plateau. Same situation here with Day of the Dead. You know, I won't explain much except just to point this one thing out. I attended the Santa Fe Indian School, the boarding school. Same boarding school that my father, or my grandfather rather, was forced to attend when he was 15 years old. But I graduated from the Santa Fe Indian School. The policies of the school are very much different than the situation my grandfather was in. That was still the age of kill the Indian, save the man. But in my time, you know, the school was transitioning from BIA run to being taken over by the Pueblo Council of New Mexico. So very different situation. But in observance and in respect to the many cultures that were represented at the school of the indigenous cultures, the school empties out for Halloween, you know, meaning that people are needing to go home to prepare for, you know, their own observance of the visitation of their loved ones. Anyway, let's continue on. So maybe we can bounce through these a little bit. So here is the hummingbird pollinator, and let's just continue with the next slide. And here is the butterfly, bucanini. Continue, please. And the worebe, the bee. And finally, the bat. And these are all part of a series that I did on pollination, the pollinators celebrating our Mother Earth, you know. And yeah, you can see that each one of them, and maybe Jesse, now we can go backwards through the same ones and come right back, you know, to the bee or to the bat. Yeah, go backwards to the next couple and then run back through. You can see that they all have that element of the spiral in them, indicating that they're all part of that spiral circle and cycle of life and renewal and pollination, you know, with the flowers and with the blossoms and with the plant life as well as with their own lives. So yeah, this was a series on pollination. It was very much inspired by the work of the Mimbres people. And when I say Mimbres, I'm referring to an ancient Puebloan people in New Mexico, you know, around the Silver City area. So off the plateau, but, you know, very much an ancient Pueblo people. And there's more imagery that we'll see about this particular style. Let's continue though. And actually, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know what? I feel like we should take a quick break right here. And so this is showing the coyote again. And I feel like I need to give you guys a shout out from the Yotes. And I really want to share a little bit of a song from the Yotes. This is a John Fogerty tune, a tune that we stole from John Fogerty. And it's a song about being born on the Rio Grande, and just kind of like Bluff, you guys have the river running right there next to you, you know, I grew up or was born, you know, Santa Clara Pueblo being one of the Rio Grande Pueblos in New Mexico. So I just want to give a shout out to everybody out in Bluff. We'll continue this presentation and wrap it up when we get back, but I would like to share this song from the Yotes. So go ahead and cue it up, Jesse. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
So I was born right along a river. Actually, my mama didn't think I would make it to the hospital, man. And I think she was right. So they didn't get me all the way to Santa Fe Indian Hospital. They took a detour and stopped there at the river town of Española, New Mexico, España. And I was born right there along the Rio in España, Dios mío, the lowrider capital of the world. Anyway, this is a song dedicated to the great Rio Grande River. And again, it is one of these waterways that has been taxed, been chopped up, bought and sold between states and countries. And like the Colorado River is very threatened. The Colorado River is considered to be our continent's most endangered river, by the way. But this is a song about being born right along the Rio. Yeah, we took a little tune from something.
All right. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. And I'd like to actually wrap this up and share or take an opportunity to take some questions and or comments. Maybe just briefly run through. I'll conclude with these next couple slides, and then we'll go into that. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to, just thank everybody for tuning in. And actually, we're not done, so let's just continue. This next slide is I call this one First American, and this is actually back up one, Jesse. Yeah, that one. So I call this one First American, and this is showing Kabotie in front of what looks like an American flag, but it has 7 stripes as opposed to 13. And this is representing the 7 language groups of the Puebloan people: the Hopi, the Zuni, the Tewa, the Tiwa, the Toa, Kiris, and the Piro Tampiro people that used to be south of Albuquerque. And also in the field of the flag up in the corner, you can see 5 stars as opposed to the many states of the United States, the many stars of the United States flag. And it has 1 large star, which is representing the center of the universe, representing the heartbeat of the Colorado Plateau. And in theory, we all believe as Puebloan people that we are living in that center place that was prepared for us. And as for myself, I consider that imagery to be right there in Hopi land, and surrounded by the 4 mountains you can see there to the northwest and to the southwest and to the southeast and to the northeast. These 4 great mountains, Navajo Mountain and the San Francisco Peaks, and off to New Mexico, the Mount Taylor, and up to the north, among the Tewa, probably we're looking at Mount Hesperus or Mount Blanca. Anyway, Kabotie is kind of the original American. I know that we like to squabble about who was here first these days and who should go home if they don't like it, But really, Kabotie was here long before all of us. He's the true American. Next slide, last slide. And last of all, this is a drawing that I did for the Minpaku Museum, and this is taking various elements of inspiration from the Mimbres culture, again, just like the Kabotie in the slide before. The Minpaku Museum from Japan has a scholar named Atsunori Ito, and he and Fumi Arakawa from the Las Cruces, the University of New Mexico, the New Mexico State University, down in Las Cruces, New Mexico, they collaborated and brought in also various museums, and there were several artists from home in Hopi, a silversmith, a potter, a glass blower, a kachina doll carver, and myself, a visual artist. And we were able to go back and visit some of these places and these sites and look at some of the imagery. My grandfather actually was a Guggenheim Fellow back in the 40s, late 40s, and he did his Guggenheim Fellowship. For his fellowship, he produced a work called A Hopi Interpretation of the Mimbres, of the ancient Membrano, is what the book was entitled. So for me, this was very special because it was coming all full circle, with my family, with my father, with my grandfather in these experiences. And we were commissioned to do a piece for the museum, and this was the piece that I did. This is a story of a Tewa migration story. And you can see on one side, you're looking at a people that's represented by the medicine of the magpie, and the other side, the people that are represented by the medicine of the parrot. One being a northern bird, one being a southern bird, and among many Puebloan people, we operate in dualities, winter and summer duality or moiety dualities. And this is going back to a story of our migration and how we came together as one people, and incidents that took place surrounding the river of people being turned into fish. But yeah, now it's not really the time for stories. So I'll kind of just maybe stop there, and just again, want to thank everybody for checking in. These have been very personal images, very personal imagery, and it's all done, from a heart for my land, for my homeland. There's 500 open pit uraniums today that still exist on Navajo Nation out in Hopi. If you have running water, if you have it, 2/3 of the population can't drink what comes out of a faucet because of arsenic contamination. Right there in Bluff, just north of you, is the only existing commercial uranium mill in the entire United States of America, threatening the water systems of the Ute Mountain Ute Nation. And it's linked directly to the Grand Canyon mine in Arizona. It's both operations, which is the only operating uranium mine in the state of Arizona, threatening the water systems of the Havasupai Nation. Both operations are owned by Energy Fuels Company up in Canada, who I assume is the chief lobbyist in this illegal shrinkage of the Bears Ears Monument, And so I just want to send out all my love to all you guys in Bluff. I know you love the land. I know you love your town. I know you love the Bears Ears. So love and respect. I hope that we can get back and do another Rumble back there soon. So love and respect. Thank you for tuning in. And if we have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to take those. Thank you. Kuna waha.
Ed, thank you so much. That was so powerful, moving, inspirational, educational. We're just so thankful for your time, and remind me next time if you are able to honor us again with your presence, we're going to give you 2-3 hours, because you've just been wonderful this evening. Thank you so much. We do have a few questions coming in. If we have, and I'll monitor the time. Like I said, next time we're going to give you even more. But Wendy would like to know a little bit more about the plumed spiral serpent in a few slides back. She just asked, could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, so here's what I don't want to do, and I appreciate questions, but questions related to, images and imagery. But I also, probably want to be careful, about not crossing a line about sharing certain things, or even speaking about things that I can't, or I don't know, is what I mean. The plumed serpent, I will say, is found all throughout Mesoamerica, all into the Colorado Plateau. He's very closely associated with water, and Quetzalcoatl is a name I've heard of him in Mexico, or Kukulkan among the Maya. But yeah, you can also definitely see that same imagery. So I think that's a really important thing when you're thinking about meditating on the symbols of the Southwest, is recognizing what is the Southwest. Well, to me, the Southwest is the Four Corner States and Mexico, and even a little bit down further. That's personally what it feels like to me as an indigenous person, and where the imagery that relates to me and my origins come from.
Thank you so much for that. This has been a really difficult year for a lot of people. how has it impacted your music and your art, both personally, professionally? If you'd like to speak to that a little bit.
Wow, that's such a great question. Because that's an exciting question to me, because I'm not a technology person, but I've had to become a technology person. Early on during the quarantine, I canceled our shows immediately. I mentioned during this presentation that my father passed away from the H1N1 virus back in 2009. So to me, um, something that could endanger people's lives potentially was not anything that I wanted to be associated with my shows and our music. So I canceled our things. And then I probably sat there feeling helpless, like probably many of us did, especially as we watched the numbers rise in Puebloan communities in New Mexico and on Navajo Nation throughout the entire Four Corner area. National attention began to be put on something I'm very grateful for, of the discrepancy between people's lifestyles in the greater culture and people in certain areas, among our people. So I kind of grit my teeth and did a live show hoping to bring attention to the Hopi Foundation's Hopi Emergency Assistance Fund. I thought they created a fund that had some sponsorship so that 100% of the monies given to that particular fund would go directly to serving people, and it wouldn't necessarily be restricted to COVID, but I mean, because there's other things that can create more complications, like not having wood, like the closure of the Kayenta mine, so there's no coal, so people can't warm their houses, etc. The Orpheum Theater began doing couch concerts, and they invited my band, the Yodis, to do one. And this was right after the passing of George Floyd. And when George Floyd passed away, I really felt like, this is what the Yodis and Rumble on the Mountain have been crying out for, and recognizing that this is a cry that extends to all people of color. And we had a budget for Rumble on the Mountain with a couple of our sponsors. And so in place of Rumble on the Mountain, we did a show in August about Pueblo Revolt Day, in celebration of the Pueblo Revolt. We did another show in September celebrating the Colorado River and trying to bring attention to its threatened water systems, the tributaries like the San Juan, like Little Colorado River, like Havasupai Falls. And then just last week, or this past Monday, we did another show, and that was a tribute to our Motown heroes, Exit. And I've been able to continue live streaming shows every week, either Saturday or Sunday. I've been doing them on Sunday most recently. And really, it's been challenging, but it's really been a blessing to see people's support and encouragement, and to be able to connect. And, and for a Rumble on the Mountain event, we'll bring in 300 people max, into a building. Or we can blast something out on Facebook and get 8,000 viewers. And that's amazing to me that, I feel like our message has is sprouting from a soil right now. And in this country, people are once again awakened to this concept of systemic racism. And I feel like we have an opportunity to share some very important things. So thank you for the question.
Oh, thank you so much for the answer. I really appreciate it. For the folks listening in and tuning in, I know I have personally attended some of your live Sunday sessions, and they've been great. That's just out on your Facebook. Are they able to go out and view those concerts now after the fact, or is there a way that they can access that?
Yeah, so the videos that you saw tonight, one is up on Facebook, and I think they're both on Facebook, but one is up on YouTube as well. So if you probably Google Ed Kabotie and or the Yoties, Yoties, you'll find quite a few things. And also, if you look on the Ed Kabotie page, um, either on YouTube or on Facebook, there's a catalog of videos. And in regards to Facebook, there is the entire kind of Sunday night weekend stuff that I've done. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like you're making yourself very vulnerable when you're standing there in front of a camera with an acoustic guitar. So I apologize for some of the songs I butchered, but I've really enjoyed, being able to connect with people.
It's been really fun. It's been so much fun, and I definitely encourage folks to tune into those. And then I have a few more questions for your artwork. Where are folks able to access that? Same places out on Facebook and your page, or where should they go for that?
It's the best way to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at edkabotie@gmail.com. So just my name, Ed Kabotie with no dots or nothing. Just edkabotie@gmail.com. You can reach out to me that way, or through the Facebook page, or I guess that's probably, you can message me on Facebook. I think you can message me on YouTube too, but anyway, those are probably the most practical, Facebook and Gmail.
Right on. So, thank you so much.
And thank you for that.
Oh, of course. No, and in relation to that, actually, I do have a question on the line. This person asks, is there any style of work that inspired you to use dots in your drawings and paintings?
Wow.
And so they said in the art world, this is called pointillism. I might be butchering that, but yeah, talk about your inspiration there if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, I appreciate the proper word. Yeah, because I always called it just making dots. My dad actually did that, a lot of color schemes like that. I love the way he used color on top of each other. I had a friend of my father who challenged me. He said, Ed, if you want to be a great artist, and I feel like, in all honesty, I'm a little bit of a wannabe artist. I tend to be more in the music world, but my dad always said he wanted to be a musician, but he was an artist. I feel like I'm the opposite. I want to be an artist, but I tend to be more of a musician. But a friend of my father's challenged me at one point, and he said, if you want to challenge yourself, don't look at just the arts that is around you. Look at the greats of the past. And to me, I took that into the context of not only the ancient past of my own culture, but also looking at some of the European masters, all of the Ninja Turtles, Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello. Leonardo is my favorite. Blew my mind. I did enroll in a class here in Flagstaff when I became artist in residence at the Museum of Northern Arizona, at the local community college, and I took art history. And I would have to say that probably the Impressionists left the greatest impression on me, and they kind of blew my mind. And so probably that really had a lot to do with the inspiration of the dots as well.
Very, very cool to hear. And thanks for the laugh with the Ninja Turtles. I appreciate that. Well, Ed, it's really been a pleasure. We're so honored to have you join us this evening.
Thank you so much.
We would love to have you back in the future, with the Bluff Arts Festival. For folks at home, we will be kicking off our Film Festival Night 2 here in just a few minutes. So please feel free to tune back into Facebook Live. You can also join your Zoom webinar link. And then for those of you who'd like to rewatch this content and share it with friends and family and other fans, it'll be up on Facebook, and then we will be also posting it to our website, www.bluffartsfestival.org. Ed, I just want to thank you again for your time. This was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And to everybody out there, keep grooving, keep smiling, keep giving, keep loving. Most of all, keep howling. Ow! Love and respect. Bye-bye.